think that way. I just don't know. I've never asked the question, but I would be surprised to think that that's the direction that any of them really want this ultimately to go at the end of the day.
Well, and the closest thing, once again, kind of a team ran deal there with High Limit. It's kind of a team oriented deal that's close to kart. Kart and
Yeah.
IndyCar championship auto racing teams. I always tell people all the time when talking about popularity of motorsports in America. I mean, IndyCars were kart racing was huge in the early '90s. NASCAR was a second tier deal. They took the F1 champion Nigel Mansell. Took him away from. I mean, he left to go to kart racing. It was huge. Now I believe you got into the IndyCar stuff due to the split, right? Where they had it, right? You and
Yeah.
Steve Kinzer actually, Kinzer. That's how he got in the Indy 500.
Yeah, the IRL split happened, and thank God it was just ovals only. And
Right.
so it created a huge opportunity for guys like myself that I never would have got looked at for an Indy. Well, I say that. I don't think I ever would have got looked at for an IndyCar deal. But literally in '96, when I signed up, uh, I was driving for Harry Ranier, who owned the white and orange Hardee's car that Cale Yarborough drove in the Cup Series. And he got out of the sport for a while, came back in '96. I drove for Harry. At the end of the season, and I'd also started driving for Menard that year with the IRL with 5 races. And at the end of the season, within literally in a 4 day span, I got 2 phone calls that to this day I question my sanity or whether I made the right decision or not. But one of them was with Barry Green from Team Cool Green. But I don't think if I hadn't ran the 5 IRL races, I don't think I would have got that offer and that phone call from Barry.
Right.
4 days after that, I got a phone call from Rick Hendrick to drive the 25 Cup car. And literally, I'd only ran 8 Xfinity races or Bush races, they called them back then. I'd only ran 8 of those races for Ranier, and I was terrible. I mean, I wrecked down of the majority of them. Just hadn't learned how to drive a stock car with radial tires yet. But I remember turning that opportunity down as well, just because I figured the Bush Series, I was one step away from being at the elite level in Cup, and honestly just felt like that if I didn't get there and make a splash and make my mark, that I was going to come back down the ladder and I wasn't going to make it. Where I just felt like I needed more time in a stock car, so I turned that deal down.
How
But
old were you when this is all happening?
oh God, um, 25
Oh God, you're over the hill. You're washed up in today's
nowadays. Yeah,
world. In today's world, you don't even get looked at. And you were called a Gillette Young Gun, I believe. What the hell? At 25, 26, 27. That was 25 when you were making the decision. You didn't become NASCAR relevant until probably what, 2 or 3 years from then.
yeah. I mean
So you were
very
28 as a Gillette Young Gun. Let me clarify.
yeah. And I wasn't even a guy that liked shaving then. So
Right.
I'm still not a big fan of it, but it gets grayer and grayer as time goes on here, and you just got to
Well,
concede.
we were talking about maybe some NASCAR topics to talk about, but I mean, they're just wreck festing over there with these kids, throwing them in there, multimillionaire rich kids with nothing else to do besides riding a yacht or drive a race car. And they picked the race car route, and this is what we got. They talk about teaching respect by fighting somebody on the racetrack, but if you don't get to Cup racing or to Xfinity racing until you're 24, 25, if you properly, or I call it naturally, I call these people like GMOs, the organic race car driver like you naturally comes up racing locally at 18 or 19 and starts dipping into regional scenes and asphalt short track scenes and learns respect by racing for 5 years. They don't just get injected into a race seat that they didn't earn with the talent, they earned with the money and the pocketbook.
I,
That's where I think the
I
current racers lacking respect is they never got taught, no on the job training.
right. It's a bad situation where the focus is get them in good cars as quick as you can. And the great thing is there's great race car drivers coming up. There's a lot of these young kids that are really, really good race car drivers. The problem with them is exactly what you mentioned. They don't have respect. They don't race with respect. And honestly, I blame this clear down to the go-kart level.
Mhm. Mhm.
When I raced go-karts, we didn't have full body work around the
Mhm.
carts. You couldn't just go nudge a guy out of the way. If you did, you might climb his tire and flip, or you might end up on the back of him. Well, now they teach these kids to sit there and just push each other out of the way. Well, they learn to do that at 8, 9, 10 years old, and now you're putting them in stock cars. I mean, Shit, you can go to Madera Speedway and they're putting 12-year-old kids in
Yeah.
full-size late models, which
Yeah.
I mean, one of my best friends is Kevin Harvick, and his son Keelan is driving one now. I My opinion and Kevin's are different on this. I don't understand why we're putting kids in adult cars. There's plenty of things for them to drive. There's plenty of things for them to get experience and laps in. The thing that scares me about it is you're putting these young kids that their bodies aren't mature, they're growing. You can hurt these kids if something goes wrong. And thank God the safety advancements have come a long way. And you know, I've been with Simpson Race Products for 33 years now, and there's never a time I've got in a car and I didn't feel safe. But as evolution and technology's got better, it all just keeps getting better and better. So it's protecting these kids more, but they don't learn real life experiences
Right.
when they're 12 years old.
Well, and they're
They,
signing up for a life of everything that comes with it. Even the most successful life can be very stressful, or things you have to go through. And it's like, is it what they always wanted to do? I remember a couple years ago, I went to Cycle Land, which is where Kyle Larson grew up and got famous from. And I'm in analytical perspectives all the time. I'm always watching my surroundings, and I just noticed a lot of kids not really into it. I mean, they got 200 cars there, and I walked up to one of the parents. I was like, "Do any of the kids actually want to be here?" And she was like, "Oh, maybe 5." And it's like, it's not even their dream to grow up and be Kyle Larson. It's the daddy or the mama's dream that wants them to do that, And so they're signing
soccer
them
moms.
up. It's soccer moms, but it's soccer dads too, and they're
Yeah.
signing them up for a lifetime of financial struggle, mental. I mean, the whole damn physical risk. I mean, there's something to be said to where we shouldn't just be. I mean, it almost sounds like a transgender conversation, but we shouldn't be allowing kids to make decisions that could affect their entire lives in a way.
Well, here's the reality of it. I honestly don't know what the number is now, but I remember, I mean, God, this has been years ago, maybe 15 years ago. There was the stat of over 1 million drivers, race car drivers in the United States. Every weekend for Cup, at the most, they're going to have 40 drivers. 1 million drivers for 40 spots on Sunday. So your kid at Cycle Land or your kid that's racing over here or over there, that the parent thinks he's the greatest thing in the world because he's racing 4 kids, isn't going to make it to one of those 40 seats.
Right.
It's not like NASCAR at the end of the year dumps out all 40 drivers and says we're starting with new drivers next year. It doesn't work like
Right.
that. So every year you're trying to replace what, two, three, four, at the most 6 drivers in a series. The rest of them got
Right.
solid jobs. So your kid probably isn't going to make it. So let your kid be a kid. If he's passionate about racing, then absolutely be behind it 100%. But if it's your dream and it's not their dream, don't waste your time with
Well,
it. You're
well,
going to
and I
find
know. Go ahead. Sorry. Sorry.
no, you're gonna waste your money trying to make your kid something that, to your point, they may not want to be that. So you've taken their whole childhood away from them to live their parents' dream.